welcome back. In this video I'm going to talk about while loops and I'm going to talk about if conditions. So while loops I don't use very often. It's very easy to get them stuck in a recursive situation where they just run infinitely and never satisfy that off condition. However, I use if conditions all the time, and this is a basic boolean construction that allows us to check if a condition is true or false. And this would allow us to do things, for example, like analyze one set of cells, or analyze only cells that have a certain parameter that is true or false, such as an intensity above a certain level, or a nucleus of a certain size, or something like this. So I've pre-prepared some code that has a simple that is generating a very simple while loop based on a random number generator, and we'll walk through that. And I'll show you some of the pitfalls that you could come across with a while loop, and I will probably fall prey to at least one of those pitfalls myself. And I'll also show you how to check equivalency for Boolean conditions. So we start off with this random number generator. This first line here is generating a random number between 1 and 10. So it uses two functions. It uses the random function and the round function. And the round function basically turns a decimal into an integer. So it just rounds up or down to the nearest whole number. Easy. The random function generates a random number with a value between 0 and 1. And we can multiply this by 10 in conjunction with the round function to generate a random number between 1 and 10. This condition, this variable here, this is a Boolean variable. So Boolean variables evaluate either as true or false. And in this case, we have a variable called done, and it is evaluating as false to start with. The reason for that is that this is the variable that is going to be evaluated whilst we run the while loop. So in this loop, you can see that we've got the keyword while, and then it checks the value of the done variable. So this double equal sign, that means that it's checking the equivalence. When you have a single equal sign, for example in line 3, done equals false, that's a single equal sign, and that is a statement that the value of done is false. When you have two equal signs next to each other, that's asking the question, is the value of done false? Okay? And so in this case, yes, the value of done is false. And so then we have this if condition. If the random number a, which is that random number between 1 and 10 that we initiated in line 1, if that is 9, if it has a value equal to 9, that's what that double equal sign means, print out random number a, print the string jobs done, and then set the value of done to true. The while loop is going to evaluate, it's going to run this block of code as long as the value of done is false. So to stop that code from running, we have to change the value of done to being true so that it no longer evaluates as false. If the value of random number a is not equal to 9, we have this else condition. So if is very frequently paired with an else. So you can see we put this block of code in braces, and then after those braces we put an else condition and then another set of braces. So this is basically saying if this statement is true, run this block of code. Otherwise, which is the else, run this second block of code. And so here we've got otherwise, print the number, and then generate a new random number. So I'm going to run this code, and you'll see that we generate RNA with a value of 8, RNA with a value of 8, RNA with a value of 9, and then 9 meets this condition, and so the job is done. I'll run this again. You see here we've now got a much bigger, it took a long time for it to get to a value of 9, right? So RNA went through 5, 1, 8, 10, yada, 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 all the way down to until finally it gets to 9, and then the job is done. Things that we would need to watch out for. If we don't, I'm not going to run this code because I find it difficult to quit these while loops, but if we don't reevaluate, if we don't change the value of done to being true, done never becomes true. It's always going to evaluate as false. The while loop is always going to run. Okay, that's going to mess up your code. You're going to be upset if that happens, particularly if the analysis takes like a long time and you find out you've actually just been analyzing the same cell 500 times. If I don't initialize this condition to check, then when I run it, it's going to give me the undefined variable. So you unlike a for loop where you instantiate the iterative variable within the actual for loop language, within a while loop, you have to instantiate a variable to check outside of the loop. And the last thing is to just make sure that it is actually going to start its evaluation as the correct value, right? So if we start done as being true, this code doesn't even run, right? We don't even get one iteration of this code because this while loop immediately checks to see whether done is false, and it's not. So it just doesn't run any of this stuff here. With while loops, we don't have to evaluate whether something is true or false explicitly. So let's change while RNA. We can use other mathematical logical signs, so less than 21, let's say. I'm just going to delete this chunk in the middle. This is probably going to lead to me throwing an error or getting stuck in an infinite loop or something. RNA ++ print. So here we generated random number A, a number between 1 and 10. We didn't need this done value. And then whilst it was less than 21, we added 1 to the value. That's what RNA ++ means, right? It iterates it by 1. And then we printed this value out. I can run this code. I'm going to close this log window, run this code again, and if we get RNA lower than... So here it starts at 6, goes all the way up to 21. Because we weren't regenerating this RNA as a random number within the loop, we just get this simple counting loop. So for example, if you only wanted to count 30 cells in an image for some reason, you could set a condition while cell count is less than 30. Yeah, that's pretty much it for while loops and if conditions. You're just checking to see if, with the if conditions, you're checking to see if a value is equal to, which is equals if x equals 10, if x is less than 10, if x. So all of these are valid if statements, and then instead you would, inside of a code block, you would put some braces after the if condition, and then you would run a code block within that. That's if statements. Very straightforward, pretty essential. I think in the next video what I'm going to do... So in the next video I'm actually going to be talking about dialogues. This video is recorded out of sequence. So in the next video I'm going to be talking about dialogues. And then I think after that, I'm going to try and kind of live code, such as it is, a macro that does something more complicated than just run through a if condition. Right? I'm gonna work with an image and try and do something interesting with that to give you an idea of how you can use different image analysis parameters within ImageJ to do really quite complicated things. See you next time.